The View was once an iconic daytime television show celebrated for its diverse range of entertaining hosts who discussed the issues of the day in a lively way. But like many other brands in the mainstream media, The View has become a victim of left-wing ideology, filling their shows with aggressive agenda pushing, bizarre claims, and excessive virtue signalling. This editorial pivot has made the show and its hosts the target of ridicule by the conservative media and the American people, and has Sky News All-Stars Rita, Panahi, James Morrow and Megyn Kelly asking, is this the end of The View? The ladies of The View had Sky News All-Star James Morrow calling the program the dumbest show in America after they labelled Donald Trump a dictator and compared him to the fascist dictator Mussolini.
Well, we've spoken a bit in the past about what I like to call the dumbest show in America. The View. You know, the one with Whoopi and Joy and all the gals having a daily hoot and slapping themselves on the back about how awful Trump is and what they'd like to do to him. Anyway, they may have outdone themselves this time. Here's Whoopi Goldberg.
I never thought in my lifetime that I would see this country come as close to dictatorship as I've seen.
Dictatorship! Yes, that's right. And according to the ladies on The View, Trump is Il Duce Mussolini.
That particular brand of fascism and bigotry might work in Florida, but it's not going to work in New York. It's not going to work in certain states in this country.
I hope so.
No.
Because
I
think now we're going back, but Mussolini had that sort of same thought that he was going to take away these sort of individual agencies and place them under his power, and he was quite successful doing it.
Mussolini, and we all know what happened to him.
Do you know what the Italians did to Mussolini? They hung him upside down.
They did.
In a square in Milan. And his girlfriend.
And listen to that crowd cheer. Yes, the tolerant left, folks. Anyway,
And despite the hosts of The View touting themselves as tolerant and compassionate, all kindness seems to be out the window when it comes to young Republicans.
This business about the aging that keeps coming up and talking about the young generation. The young generation of Republicans are dumb. You've got that Vivek Ramaswamy. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene. You've got, wait a second, Lauren Bubblehead, Matt Gaetz. But you have all these people who went along with the insurrection, who believe that Trump won. Oh, Marjorie's out there. Oh, Trump won by a landslide. They're liars, and they are the new generation of the Republican Party. Do you want that?
No, and I don't think that's the case. They're all, with the exception of Vivek, in hyper gerrymandered districts where they can get elected there for life because it's such a far-right district. Young Republicans of this country,
it definitely what they're saying. You think they're lying?
I don't know that Marjorie Taylor Greene knows what the heck she believes in. Vivek but young Republicans, young moderates, and independents of all stripes, that's not what they want. They don't want the far right. I think they were a turning point in some of the extremist candidates getting rejected in the midterms was younger voters. They won't vote for people who don't believe in climate change, who don't believe in gay rights. Like, that's just, we won't.
The View has always been a progressive show, but the current hosts have ramped it up tenfold in recent times, causing Sky News All-Star Rita Panahi to burst into hysterics over this bizarre comment about illegal immigrants and climate change.
And talking about dim-witted lefties, let's check in with how the ladies of The View, filmed in New York City, are coping with the small influx of illegal migrants, small when compared to what states like Texas and Arizona have been dealing with.
It puts tremendous stress on a city, on a community, on the social services. They need to be resettled elsewhere.
They need to be out. We're this massive country.
And it's only going to get worse with global warming and climate change because people can't live in certain parts of this world.
Climate change! It's climate change. Only going to get worse.
Race is also a major trigger for the hosts of The View, even when race isn't mentioned. The panel was offended by a hit country music song that discussed community, but which they perceived as racist.
I just love it. It is
Great,
on
great
high
song. Great song.
rotation.
Fantastic.
And let me check those lyrics, because if there's any racism, I want to be right across it. He says, well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Round here, we take care of our own. Frightening stuff, boys, frightening stuff. But as the cancel culture mob launched into full hysteria mode, a beautiful thing happened. Firstly, the singer, Jason Aldean, didn't do what most celebs do in this instance, which is issue a grovelling apology and promise to do better. Despite having done nothing wrong, he didn't do that. You know, the celebs, they just go into apology mode. Don't do it. If you haven't done anything wrong, don't apologise. And guess what? The public responded to that, because that song was sent to the #1 position. Wow. It was released in May. It didn't do much until the media lost their mind over the video. Now it's #1. And of course, that's triggered the ladies on The View.
And unfortunately, this became the #1 song on US iTunes. We have a problem in this country about race, and the biggest problem is we refuse to admit that it exists.
Well, don't you think that a lot of this...
It gets even better. Here is Whoopi Goldberg.
You know, and he shows these images. He's got folks from the Black Lives Matter movement, and he's talking about people taking care of each other. And I find it so interesting that it never occurred to Jason or the writers that that's what these folks were doing. They were taking care of the people in their town.
Yes,
sure
yes,
were.
Whoopi, yes. Those thugs burning down buildings and looting businesses and bashing bystanders, well, they're just taking care of folks. They were helping. Isn't it astonishing that a song that has no mention of race, a song about taking care of each other and your community, is seen as racist? Doesn't that say something about the accusers? If you hear lyrics against rioting and violence and think it must be an attack against the black community, then guess what? You're the racist.
Sky News All-Star James Morrow slammed host Sunny Hostin for using her race to play the victim and compare herself to lower socioeconomic classes of people.
And let's have a look at what happened when one of the hosts on this show, Sunny Hostin, offered her view of why communist China just ain't that bad.
And so as a woman of color with a 6'2" black kid in college and a 5'7", 5'8" black kid in high school, I don't see that part of American exceptionalism. I'm sorry. No. I think this country has a lot of problems that could be solved. Yes, maybe they're putting Muslims in jail in Afghanistan, I think you mentioned, and China. They're putting a lot of more black people in jail here.
So they're saying there that China's internment camps for Uyghur Muslims is, you know, fine because, hey, America's got its own race relations problems. Adam, what do you make of that?
That's what I make of that. I think it's funny. You know, actually, obviously, the ridiculous part of comparing black people being in prison compared to, you know, the Uyghurs being in prison in China just for existing, is to assume that every black person in jail is innocent. You know, that's like the unequal comparison there. But the other part that I find interesting is, and Sunny does this often, is that she glosses over her economic privilege. You know, what she doesn't say is that her son attends Harvard, right? A very prestigious school. And she equates her life, because she is black, or at least partially black, I believe she's mixed. But, you know, she says, my son is black. And because her son is black, he is equal to every other black person, and especially the lower class. And they just gloss over the fact that she has amongst the most economic privilege of any American, you know, just so she can score some sort of points as far as being a victim in American society. She is literally experiencing the American exceptionalism, and she wants people to believe that she isn't.
And once again, Sunny Hostin weaponized race, this time against Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley, accusing her of changing her name to appear more white, says Sky News All-Star Megyn Kelly.
Just let's talk about Nikki Haley. Now, at one point, Nikki Haley felt like kind of the perfect post-Trump candidate, right? Female, Southern, had some different ethnic heritage, was progressive enough, but apparently she's as terrible as they come, according to Sheila on The View.
Yeah. Sunny Hostin, who truly is one of the worst. I mean, it's hard to pick, right, on The View. Like, if you had to, like, the collective IQ of the ladies on that set, it doesn't hit the double digits. But in any event, she's really one of the worst. Everything through an ideological prism, and I mean everything. And so she decides, rather than saying, okay, she might be an acceptable Republican candidate, somebody who I could potentially not vomit over, which was the standard they were discussing on that show, she attacked her, suggesting, where did the name Nikki come from? It's N-I-K-K-I. Where did that come from? And suggested that as an Indian woman, Nikki Haley had chosen, these are Sunny's words, to pass as potentially a white person by changing her name. The implication being, of course, this is a disgustingly racist country and has been for all of Nikki Haley's life, and that no Indian person would ever want to adopt and embrace and be proud of one's Indian culture and heritage. Of course, they would want to pass in our racist white society. The only problem was there wasn't one word of that was true. Nikki is the name on her birth certificate. She's been called that since she was born. And the ultimate chef's kiss piece of the story is Sunny is not Sunny Hostin's name. Sunny's actual name is Ascension, which she said our racist country couldn't pronounce, so she had to change it. Rather than just, you know what? People can't pronounce Megan either. They say Megan, they say Megan, they say whatever. Even I don't know how to pronounce it. I just kind of mumble it. I don't know how. My point is, you don't have to change it. I don't have to go by Meg. I don't have to go by anything else because we have a terrible country. I didn't decide to call everybody else stupid or racist or what have you.
Well, as always, the left is all about projection. What they criticise you about is 100% what they are doing all the time.
One of the most mind-blowing takes from The View was when host Anna Navarro tried to spin the Hunter and Joe Biden scandal as a tale of a father's love.
Let's start with the always reliable lefty lunacy of The View. Take it away, Anna Navarro.
The Hunter Biden story, the scandal, the this, the that, it's also the story of a father's love. And Joe Biden has never and will never give up on his son Hunter, and will never treat him lesser than. And so he is a father first. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, she's almost crying there, Prue. Yes, that whole story, that entire scandal is a story about a father's love. Yeah, 10% for the big guy because he's so loving.
He loves having the money that Hunter's delivering him, isn't he? You know, he's his emissary to, take the bag around and do the collection. That's a father's love.
Yeah, I mean, please, how thick must that audience be to sit there and be fed that and not to laugh out loud or hiss or, some sort of a reaction to those insane words?
It's no surprise that the hosts of The View condone trans ideology, but Sky News host Rita Panahi was shocked when Whoopi Goldberg said the Bible defends gender transition for children.
Whoopi Goldberg, who raised a few eyebrows using the Bible to support the idea of kids getting gender change surgeries. Take a look.
But my God, this is a party that says we believe in parents' rights. You're telling me that as a parent, I'm not smart enough to decide if my child and I need to have gender affirming. Our doctors are not involved. What is going on? So I can't decide what my kid reads. I can't decide for my child what my child says is going on. You're telling me your beliefs, and they keep saying it, and I keep saying, what Bible are you reading? Yeah. Because God was really clear. Very clear.
I would say this is a new low for The View, but it isn't. They've gone way lower before. It's certainly on brand for The View.
And when it comes to Donald Trump, the hosts of The View have made no attempt to hide their disdain for the former president. Firstly, they attempted to blame him for the Ohio train disaster.
He placed someone with deep ties to the chemical industry in charge of the EPA's Chemical Safety Office. That's who you voted for in that district. Donald Trump, who reduces all safety. He did.
Do
in
they
those
showed
days.
up at McDonald's and those voters saw something on the ground that probably resonates in a way that they need.
But they need to look past the photo ops, these people, and say who's doing the job here. Forget about the photo op.
Showing up is a big thing. I think this is Donald Trump's fault.
Yeah, did you hear that, you stupid Ohio hicks? It's your fault you've been hit with this disaster. You voted for Trump. Take your medicine, goobers. This is, of course, a common thread we hear often on the left, the idea that disasters which befall their political enemies are like plagues and punishments sent down by the gods of wokeness to smite those who fail to put their pronouns in their email sign-off blocks.
And then they presented a bizarre skit that showed a child dressed up as Donald Trump flushing documents down a toilet. The View has always maintained they broadcast a range of opinions across the political spectrum. However, this is quite obviously performative as conservative voices are attacked.
I know that we love talking about The View because it's the worst show on American television, because it parades as a debate, but really it's just a, circle session for people and ladies of the left. But their treatment of Mike Pence, you think, might be the beginning of the end of this terrible television show.
Just accuse me of something, so why don't you let me actually answer? You're not going to vote for a Republican ever.
No, I'm Trump.
Don't make this personal. Let's hear.
Yeah,
spearheaded the Trump.
Sonny likes to make it personal with me, so we'll just. Are you going to give me a chance to answer?
Speaking the truth, spearheading Trump's COVID-19 agenda of downplaying the virus.
Well, this is not what the show is about. This is Barbara Walters' legacy.
It's everybody's view.
It's everybody's view. No, it's everybody's view.
It's just a absolutely terrible show, but terrible shows have a way of sticking around. We've talked about it before. Barbara Walters set this thing up to be truly different women from different points of view, sharing their views respectfully and having a conversation. And by the way, the show did that quite well for many years while Barbara was there. It has subsequently derailed since her. But as they were talking about Mike Pence, watching Sonny Hostin, who I have deemed to be the most unlikable person in American television, maybe Australian television as well, if they're repeating The View for you guys, watching her just attack Alyssa Farah, who's, she's the quote-unquote conservative of the group, which right there, the fact that there's one quote-unquote conservative, so how is that The View? If you have 5 harpies that all believe the same thing, always going after the one, you can already see there's an asymmetry here. So, Alyssa Farah, unfortunately, she's getting, as she gets abused by Sonny, she's just getting what they paid her for. They paid her to take abuse from a bunch of hysterical lefties. So, I hope the contract's worth it.
Yeah, this is the thing. If you're the conservative, and I'm not even talking about old school or new school, if they're able to wear that footy jumper, they treat you like the piñata as the one they all just roll their eyes at. But of course, as everything gets turned up to 11, they look crazier than ever.
Performances like this have led commentators like Douglas Murray to label The View as the least watchable television program in America.
It's so ridiculous, isn't it? Some of our viewers may be blessed in not knowing what The View is, but The View is the least watchable television program in America.